slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever.
Hey team, hope you're all doing well. Today's video, I wanted to make a quick video on why I'm running the 2024 Rehoboth Beach Seashore Marathon, and I wanted to clarify a few things in regards to why I'm doing this. Some of you have left, I've gotten a lot of great feedback from all of you regarding the Philadelphia marathon and me finishing or getting through the 16.4 mile mark of the race and pulling out. I got a recent statement here from Avianthro who mentioned, "I'm torn here. I admire your determination and gutsiness for pressing on, but what are you trying to prove? Just pull back for a while and make sure you're fully healed from your hip flexor and hamstring problems. Perhaps by doing that, by setting a wise example, you'd be proving much more than by pressing on at this time." And I certainly, that is a legitimate statement. And I think the same individual sent me an email as well. He wrote, "I know you're capable of running a 240 or faster. My question is why? You're nursing a bit of an injury. Wouldn't it be great to complete the marathon still fast, but successfully? Why not focus on going a bit slower for your first complete marathon in a long time and perhaps aim for 250 to 255? You have nothing to prove to anyone and no one is going to think any less of you." And more importantly, a lot of people don't understand or know this. I have until the end of December to earn the 2025 Masters World Standard, which is 2 hours and 42 minutes. So that is another reason why I'm doing this one more time. Another thing I want to touch on is in regards to the hamstring and hip flexors. Those both tightened up on me in Philadelphia, but it wasn't to a point where it because I stopped early and didn't go say like 23 or 24 miles, because I didn't push to that extent. I didn't put so much stress on it that I created an injury. What it was just severe tightening of the hamstring and my hip flexors in that race. And I really don't know outside of there's some very large hills on the Philadelphia course, which I was not aware of. I mean, I did review the course and the course maps online. I watched the time-lapse video on YouTube as well. And the hills on the time-lapse video do not indicate how sharp those hills are. There's some very sharp inclines on the Philadelphia Marathon course. So for anybody that wants to run that, yes, it is a largely flat marathon, but there are some major hills on that course. And I think that those undulations, for some reason in that particular morning, really was not working well with my body. And again, in my entire marathoning career, I've only DNF'd twice. It was the Grandma's Marathon. I'm not sure the exact year it was. It might have been 2011. And that was because I could not sleep the night before, and I took some, which I'll never do again, I took some sleeping pills about 2 a.m. in the morning of the race, the morning of the race, trying to get just a couple hours of sleep. It was a horrible mistake on my part. And then, of course, Philadelphia. But sometimes we have to make these decisions when we race. And if it's something that's causing you to not even be able to make a stride as you're running in a race, it's sometimes wise to end the race early rather than continue to push on and severely injure yourself. In my case, because I stopped really early, I was able to recover. I was able to jog. I jogged 2 miles back to the buses, and then the buses dropped us off about a mile from my hotel. So that day I did actually about 19 miles. And I just took that as okay, this is a solid workout. And I may consider, and I always talk about this in other videos, the characteristics that I've learned from the top distance runners, world-class runners, Olympians that I've trained and lived with is they get over disappointments very, very fast. a matter of hours. They're already thinking about their next race. And in my case, because I pulled off the course as early as I did at 16.4 miles, I realized that one, I have to go back to my training the past several months. It'd be one thing if I was doing workouts that were, say, like long runs, like between 7.5 to 8 minute mile pace for my hard long runs. I would say that going after, say, a sub 3 hour marathon, maybe like a 2:59 or maybe like a 3:05 would be the better option. The reason why I'm going after 2:42 is because I think it's a reasonable, not it's a reasonable attainable goal. Not that it's going to be easy in any case. It's 6:11 mile pace is definitely aggressive, but I chose the Rehoboth Beach Marathon because it's flat. There's hardly any hills on that course. My wife and I discussed different marathons and different options. I was considering maybe a marathon 3 weeks out from now, but because of my taper and where I'm at in terms of my fitness, we decided on the second week of December. So the week of either the 7th or the 8th. And there's a limited amount of marathons here in the States, really, at this point of the year, that were available. And actually, Rehoboth Beach Marathon was actually closed. The registration was closed. And I emailed the race director because I looked at the results for the past 2 years. And the winner, the past 2 years, have run anywhere from like 2:27 to 2:29. And then it goes like 2:36, 2:38, 2:41, 2:42. So that's in that range, kind of in the range I'm looking at. And I was not expecting her to respond so fast, but she responded to my email within probably about an hour. And so I decided that I was going to go after that particular race. But just to clarify for a lot of you who may be thinking that the hamstring and the hip flexor issue was a major injury, and to the point that I couldn't race, and that maybe running a marathon, about 2 weeks out from Philly, might be unwise. It wasn't to the extent that it was a major injury. It was just severe tightening. The marathon is very, as I talk about in other videos, the marathon is very complex. And it's not to discredit athletes that are running maybe the 5K or 1,500 or cross country or 10,000 meters. Those races are very aggressive and very, very difficult mentally and physically as well. But because the marathon, because it takes so much time in order to get into great shape, and to try to time your taper in the right way, it can be a complicated event. And it's weird because, and I know a lot of you have experienced this, sometimes you'll run a marathon and you feel absolutely horrible. And even sometimes you've done everything right. You've done a proper taper, you've done nutrition, you've gotten your sleep, and you just feel awful in the race. And then you go and you run another marathon and you feel phenomenal. And maybe you didn't get as good of as much sleep as you did in the marathon where you felt like crap. It's a mystery in some cases. I know a lot of you understand this. And another thing I wanted to share with all of you too that may not know my entire history. Prior to running 2:19 for the marathon at the 2007 California International Marathon, 3 months prior to that, I ran 2:51 and I failed miserably trying to go after the sub 2:22 that I needed in order to qualify for the then 2008 USA Track and Field, for the 2008 US Olympic trials. I went out in 1:11 the first half. It was the worst heat in the Chicago Marathon's history. And I'm not a hot weather runner, but I had a very difficult time in that race as well. I went out in 1:11 and practically walked and jogged the last 15 miles of that race, running 2:51. And of course, I was really disappointed, and knew at that particular point that was my last shot of qualifying for the 2008 U.S. Olympic trials. But me being me, I took 3 days off, and then I started training for sim. And then I ended up running 2:19 at sim. I knew I was prepared. I knew I was capable of running that fast based off of running a 107.06 half marathon in Philadelphia, where I ran my PR for the half marathon in Philadelphia on the same course that I ran this marathon here a few days ago. And looking back, if I would have quit after running that 251 and failing in that particular effort, and just said, I'm 222 is far too fast, I'm just not capable of that, I would have never found out what I was truly capable of. So I think sometimes you have to be a little bit hard-headed at times and go after what you're really aiming for, despite the voices that are around you, even if they're caring. I've had decisions in my life where I've had to make decisions where loved ones simply did not approve at all, and they turned out to be the absolute best decisions of my life. And sometimes you have to go with your gut, you have to go with your heart. And again, in Philly, it was a great workout. That's the way I saw it. And then I thought back to some of the Kenyans that I've trained with, and I remember in Green Bay a few years ago, I think it was the 2010 Green Bay half marathon, I ran a 110 for the half. I finished in the top 10 there. And then there was a Kenyan that was on the flight with me. He had a PR of 211. He ran 240. And you would think that he didn't even run 240. I mean, the guy was so fired up about talking about his next race. He wasn't disappointed at all about his 240. And so I think that that's the kind of mindset we have to go into sometimes. If you have a poor race, or if you have to DNF, I know it's not a good feeling, but sometimes you have to take your licks in this sport. It's not perfect. And, as I mentioned in the Philly video, who doesn't like to talk about their successes? Who doesn't like to talk about when they performed at the highest level? Nobody really likes to discuss when they're vulnerable and when they don't perform at the level they're capable of, or when things don't go right. So when I make these videos, it's not just about me either, and talking about what I've done. I like hearing the comments. I like discussing what you all are doing, and hearing from the athletes I coach, and hearing from the athletes that performed in other races that are doing phenomenal. I mean, there was a guy that left a comment. He's 52 years old, ran a 240 at the Berlin Marathon. 52 years old and ran a 240. It's another example that there's athletes out there, phenomenal athletes, that are in their 40s, late 40s, 50s, 60s, that are running phenomenal times. But again, you have to really want this. And in regards to me going after one more shot at this, it's mainly because one, I don't have anything to lose. I don't have anything to prove either. It's just based off of what I've done in training in the past several months, especially the past 2 to 3 months, signifies that even despite not having run a marathon in such a long time, and it's been 11 years, going after this type of time is not unreasonable based off the workouts I'm doing. So like, say I was like in the past 2 to 3 months, I was doing like repeat miles on the track at like 6:30 per rep, and I was having a hard time with that. Then a slower time would be warranted. Okay, but I did do a 54-50 10-mile time trial by myself. I've done a 22 miler at 6:07 mile pace. Those two are just two examples of some of the workouts I've been doing leading into Philly and going into this Rehoboth Beach Seashore Marathon. I really like the layout of it. It does look like it's a mixture of paved roads and trails, and it goes through like nature reserves. There's a lot of cinder trails, so it's a mixture of all types of terrain, but it's much more low key, much more smaller environment. And sometimes, if I'm feeling good in the race, I'm just going to go for it. And again, I may fail, I may run much faster than I even was expecting on running. Again, this is just it's a tough event, both mentally and physically, and sometimes, as I mentioned, everything can go right and it still doesn't pan out. And I've had a lot of experiences like that over the years with the marathon. I remember running my debut, I ran 2:43, but I remember years ago running Columbus, I ran 2:55 there, went out much faster than 2:55 pace and had a hard time finishing. And several marathons, I remember running the BMO marathon in Vancouver, Canada. I finished 10th place, went out in 108 high for the half, was still at 2:27 marathon pace through 20 miles, and ended up running 2:40.56. Grandma's is another example. I went out in 1:10.32 in 2007, ended up running 2:40.02, which back then at that time was a PR, improving on the 2:43.36 debut that I ran at the 2002 New York City Marathon. So sometimes it's tough to perfectly gauge your paces as you progress in the sport. Of course, as you get stronger, you can go out a little bit faster and be able to hang on better. Like, going out 110 at Grandma's and running 130 for the second half, running 2:40.02. It took me a few more years to get to a point where I could run 2:26 at the 2011 Monumental Indianapolis Marathon, including a Porta-John stop. So would have been maybe like a 2:23 that day, 2:24. 2:19 at Sim, going out 107.09. Sometimes it's just about continuing to stay relentless on what you're doing with your training, okay? In regards to this, as I'll close, just so you all have a little better understanding of what I'm doing here, this is just one last opportunity, basically. By the end of December, that's the closeout time frame for runners that want to qualify for the 2025 Age Group World Championships that are going to be held in conjunction with the 2025 New York City Marathon. So we have until December 31st to get the standard. Okay, so that's another reason why I'm doing this, and obviously another reason is I still feel very strong. I feel recovered. I took the day off after the Philly Marathon. And again, I only went 16.4 miles. Took the next day off. The day after that, when I got back here to Michigan, I ran 10 miles at 7:36 pace. This morning I did a 2-mile jog warm-up, a 3-mile run at threshold effort, running 5:38, 5:31, 5:32 for those 3 miles, and I did a mile cool down. And then tonight I'm going to be running maybe 5 or 6 miles easy. Again, it's pretty much just maintenance mileage and just some light workouts. Probably on Friday I'll do maybe like 6 300s and 4 to 5 200s, just some quick speed session, just to get the legs going a little bit. And then a long run of maybe 10 to 11 miles on Sunday, relaxed. And then next week it's going to be pretty much just one workout. Maybe I'll do 1 2-mile rep on the roads at Gold Marathon race pace. Just pretty much that's it. 1 mile warm up, 2 miles at Gold Marathon race pace, 1 mile cool down. That'll be about, I'll do that 4 days out. And then just pretty much some strides and some easy running going into Rehoboth Beach, which is in Delaware. So I wanted to make that video on why I'm running the 2024 Rehoboth Beach Marathon, Seashore Marathon. And again, if you look it up online, you'll see a time-lapse video. There's a guy that did it, rode the course on his bike with his GoPro, and pretty much shows the exact layout of the course. Very, very nice course. And I'm excited. I'm excited to give it a shot. Again, if I would not be willing to fly all the way to Delaware if I didn't think I was capable of doing it. And yes, the emails that I got from this particular individual, who definitely means well, Why not go for as he mentioned, why not go for a slower time, seeing you haven't run a marathon in so long? And he also wrote, I know you're capable of running a 240 or faster, but my question is why? So I hope this video answers that question of why I'm going after this particular time one last time because I'm getting close to the end of December. And again, it's just it's one because I have the opportunity to do it, and I've done the work in order to get that time. So I know I have to be very strong mentally and physically in order to finish with that fast of a time. Of course, it would be much easier to go after, say, like a sub 305, or maybe even to go after 652 pace, which is still aggressive running for a marathon. Breaking 3 hours and running 652 mile pace is no joke. It's a very, very competitive, fast time. But I know the type of time I have to hit. I'm going to just go and enjoy it. I'm going to go and hopefully link up with a few runners in the race and just stick to that pace. And if I feel good, I'm going to make my move. So thank you so much for all of you for your support and leaving comments and the encouragement and the kind words and the kind comments that you all have left from my experience in Philadelphia. It really means a lot. So thank you so much. Hope this answers a lot of your questions in regards to why I'm running another marathon after considering I ran in the Philadelphia Marathon just like a few days ago. Again, it'd be a lot worse if I would have continued on to say like 23 or 24 miles and didn't call it a day at 16.4. So thanks so much for watching my videos. Thanks for all your support, and I'll talk to you all in the next one.